is try not to repeat some of the points, and I'm going to try and talk about a slightly different, maybe mention some results of the techniques in our hands, and also majorly talk about femtosecond assisted laminar keratoplasty or FALL. So I have no financial disclosures, unfortunately. Just to summarize on what we were talking about, when we talk about superficial anterior laminar keratoplasty, it probably includes the top 200 microns of the anterior part of the stroma, because when you go a little bit deeper than that, then it's anterior laminar keratoplasty, and then it's deep anterior laminar, and so on. So it's more to do with having less sutures in place, or a suture-free technique in the case of superficial anterior laminar keratoplasty. So in the evolution of SALK, we started off with the manual technique, and then we talked about microkeratome assisted, and now we have femtosecond assisted anterior laminar keratoplasty. So what are the indications we can use it for? Anterior stromal scarring, certain dystrophies are excellent indications, and excision of plaques where the plaque is very deep and you want to tectonically stabilize it by placing a corneal tissue. So that includes a case of shield ulcer that we did, and rarely for infections, and this would be more for an acanthomoeba keratitis where there's a plaque and we replace it with a 120 or a 150 micron lamellar tissue. And then, as indications, as Namrata has mentioned, those includes the superficial corneal scars, including Salzmann nodular degeneration. This forms the bulk of the indications for anterior laminar keratoplasty. So what are the techniques? We can do a simple manual dissection, where you can use manual dissectors as shown by Namrata. This is very simple to do. It's low cost, and it can be pretty effective in most of the cases. It can be effective as a therapeutic modality, but the limitations are that it optically doesn't give a very satisfactory result. So it's very difficult to obtain a precise and smooth interface when you do a manual laminar dissection. And the resulting interface irregularity and haze leads to a suboptimal visual outcome. And you cannot, it's not reproducible. You're not very sure what were the dimensions of the donor and the recipient corneas that you took. And in certain instances where you think that the scarring is anterior, but as you dissect the host, you can sometimes have a perforation, and you need to convert to a full thickness technique. So manual dissection is good in the way that it's very simple, but then it's not extremely optimal in my perspective. The second technique that was very beautifully covered by Namrata was a microkeratome assisted anterior laminar keratoplasty. So I won't go through most of the techniques. Just to say that the advantage, of course, you have an extremely smooth dissection, and therefore you have better visual outcomes. But you do have disadvantage of, just like in LASIK, you have when you're creating the flap, you don't really know what you're going to come out with. So there's unpredictable flap thickness in certain instances, and you can have complications of the flap. So we designed the study that I was going to present about our cases is pretty similar to the technique described by Patel et al., and in which they had 9 eyes of 8 patients who they followed up for 2 years. And based on this, we had selected cases where we had 21 eyes of 18 patients, and majority of these patients' indications were post-stroke trachomatic corneal scarring, and there were 4 cases where we had Salzmann nodular degeneration, and 3 patients with spheroidal degeneration. Although we had many more eyes which underwent ALTK, but we didn't include them in analysis because they had less than 1 year follow-up, or they were lost to follow-up. So these cases with at least 1 year follow-up sort of went through at least a cohort of they're not consecutive cases, so they were operated by multiple surgeons. Initially, we had the HP microkeratome which we used for patients for the recipient cornea, and then when we got the Moria system, we used the Moria for the donor cornea, and we had the XP or the Moria for the recipient cornea. So the results in our hands was that we had reasonably good outcomes. We had 20/60 or better in most of the patients, about 80% of our cohort. But the main problem that we saw with our cases was that the mean postoperative astigmatism was very high. So although the mean was 4.5, the range was as high as up to 14 diopters of astigmatism. The good part was that we didn't really have any intraoperative complications in any of our cases, but almost 7 of these 21 patients had interface haze, which contributed to the not very satisfactory kind of visual acuity in 7 of them. And in the subgroup, we saw that 2 patients had recurrence of the primary disease, which was corneal scar in the post-trachoma group, and one of the Salzmann nodular degeneration recurred with the degeneration once again. So with that, I would like to discuss another technique, which is femtosecond laser-assisted femtosecond assisted laminar keratoplasty or FALC. So as Dr. Alavi had highlighted, so the advantages of this technique is it's highly reproducible fit between the donor and the recipient, in fact the best fit that you can get. There's no limit in what kind of shape you would like to create, as you mentioned, and in the curvatures that you would like to obtain. And then you have an extremely favorable wound healing response, so you can do this as a sutureless technique. So the early results were published by the group at Bascom Palmer, and they had pretty encouraging results of the cases with excellent outcomes in most of the patients. So this series mentions the largest number, in which they had 13 eyes, and the mean best correct visual acuity was as good as 20/40 in just a month's time post-operative, and this visual acuity was more than 20/30 in half of the group at 1 year. They did have surface haze, and there was recurrence of granular dystrophy in one eye each. And what they did was several adjunctive procedures in order to improve the visual acuity. So this best corrected visual acuity was without any adjunctive procedure. And when they did either PRK or PTK, and they had a few other complications like epithelial ingrowth, they could improve the visual acuity to 80% or better in the entire cohort at the end of 1 year. So this was pretty encouraging visual results in the case of FALC or femtosecond laser assisted sutureless anterior laminar keratoplasty. So the machine that we have access to is the Visumax femtosecond laser system, which is an excellent system, but it doesn't give you any side profile. It's a straight on side profile. And I'd like to just discuss a few cases under this, using this technique. So we have this very interesting family where we had a father, daughter and son with Rees-Buckler's dystrophy, or the anterior-most variant of granular dystrophy. It was a non-consanguineous parents, and the father as well as the daughter and son were affected. All of them had undergone multiple procedures. Most of the procedures were done with us. So to show you how the donor and the recipient surgery is done in the case of FALC, you can decide the thickness of the lenticule you want for the donor. So since you want it to be sutureless, we pre-decide what is the amount of stroma that we want from the lenticule. So this is showing the lenticule cut, which should be about 120 to 150 microns. It would be slightly more than what we would dissect for the patient. The reason being that the stored tissues would be edematous. So what you can see is actually the centration, which is not centered to where the suction was applied. And I'll come to that, why that happened. And this is in the recipient. So there are some bridges or some adhesions because the recipient cornea is not very clear, but it's easy enough to dissect that cornea, and you can just place this thin sliver of corneal tissue and just put it down in place, pat it dry, and you don't need glue or sutures. Bandage contact lens is applied, and you wait for 5 minutes, and then this is done. So the technique is extremely simple and very reproducible. So discussing those three cases, the father is a 73-year-old at the time when we did FALC for him. And in both eyes he'd undergone PK, he'd undergone cataract surgery, and he'd undergone PTK twice in one eye, thrice in the other eye. And his visual acuities when he presented was 2200 in the right eye and 2080 in the left eye. So we did FALC for his right eye, and this is a preoperative photograph. Post-operatively, at the end of 3 weeks, although you can see many residual opacities, but you know that these patients can see reasonably well in spite of these opacities. His visual acuity improved to 20/60. At the end of 6 months, his visual acuity improved to 20/40, and he still maintained that visual acuity even now. The daughter, she's 43 years old. She had undergone PK in the right eye 20 years ago and left eye as well. She had undergone PTK twice in the right eye and once in the left eye. And her entry-level visual acuities were 20/60 in the right eye and 21/25. She had in fact come in for a PTK for her left eye. So we did FALC for this daughter, and the visual acuity, the result was extremely satisfying. Her visual acuity improved to 20/40 within a week's time, and she's maintained the visual acuity at the end of 1 year of follow-up. So this is 11 months follow-up, showing that this is 20/50 unaided with best corrected. She has excellent visual acuity. The son is 37-year-old. He's undergone PK in both eyes and PTK in one eye. So we did FALC for the worst of the 2 eyes, and the patient has good visual acuity. A few other interesting cases that we have 7 eyes so far, and most of the surgeries are done by my colleague Mukesh Taneja, and some of them are done by me. So we looked at the results of these cases, and we saw that we had, in the follow-up of 6 to 24 months, we had extremely gratifying results of unaided visual acuities of 20/60 or better. So this is one case where there's a corneal scar due to a foreign body. In fact, there was a glass particle which was lodged into the corneal stroma. So we did FALC, and we were very we had a lot of trepidation whether the gas would go below the foreign body or not, the glass foreign body or not. So it did, and we could just remove the corneal tissue, including the glass foreign body, and put into place a donor lenticule of 150 microns. So this patient is doing extremely well. This was a patient with advanced spheroidal degeneration as well as total cataract, and we did FALC for this patient, followed by cataract surgery in his 20/20 visual acuity. Notice his cornea, which was so bumpy preoperatively, and this is post-operative. You can barely see the interface in this case, and it's an extremely smooth, excellent topography for this patient. In fact, he has no refractive error post-operatively. So we did have a couple of complications. It's very difficult for the patient to center. That's the major difficulty that we face, because the patients have poor visual acuity, they can't fix very well, and even if you mark what is the center, by the time you apply the suction, they're looking somewhere else. That has been one difficulty. And in one patient on the first post-operative day, we had sort of displacement of the graft, but then we, just like how you put your LASIK flap in place, we did the same thing. We didn't suture it, and then this patient is doing pretty well since then. So I think that between the techniques that we have now, and having done all of the techniques, I would definitely prefer SALC. Of course, it's expensive. You should have a femtosecond machine with you, but then the outcomes are extremely gratifying because the surgical precision is excellent. Thank you very much, and thanks to Dr. Fogler.